welcome to Leadership with Purpose, a podcast where we explore stories and people who lead with empathy, courage, and intention. I'm your host, Swati Agarwal, and today I have a very special guest, Kristen Lam. She is an Associate Director of Logistics at UC San Diego. Her journey is one of curiosity, reinvention, and leadership, and I can't wait for all of you to hear her story of grit. Hi, Kristen. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm
Yes.
really fascinated by your career. And, it's fascinating that your career isn't a linear path. It started with biology and psychology, and today you're leading logistics at UC San Diego. So please tell us how it all happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be on this podcast today and share my story. And yeah, you're right. My journey was not a straight line. And I had studied biology and psychology at UC San Diego. And originally, I was going to go into healthcare. And after I graduated, that's kind of where I changed my mind and I said, this is not really the path that I wanted to pursue. And I really wanted to try something different. And it really was a leap of faith at the time.
Mhm.
But I got lucky, and with the support around me, folks encouraged me to join the temporary pool at UC San Diego. And they just happened to place me with logistics. And I kind of fell in love with it pretty quickly. I've always had a inkling for business and finance and operations. So it was kind of the perfect fit. And throughout my career here, it's been 10 years now. And, I started off as an administrative assistant and kind of did a whole bunch of things along the way, including, the financials,
Right.
um, project management, data analytics, everything under the sun. And now I am currently the associate director of logistics here.
Wow, that's amazing. It, Quite a journey, huh?
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, was there a moment when you thought, oh, I actually love this work? Like, this is where I belong. I love this. Or was it like a gradual transition or kind of like a moment where it hit, like, this is my place? And yeah.
Yeah, this is actually a funny question and answer for me. And I would say it happened upon first sight, honestly.
Yeah.
I was placed here, and the first day was my tour. So I walked into the building, and it was this entire warehouse. And once
Mhm.
I saw the warehouse, I just thought to myself, this is it. This is the place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always loved to be in an environment where it's a little bit hustle and bustle, hands-on, um, kind of the engine of the university. A little bit behind the scenes, but also very important to, um, the university and how it runs and whatnot. So, yeah, I guess love at first sight.
Wow. And you describe it beautifully that every time, like, I would say I've been in this industry for 20 years. And every time I do go to a warehouse, I go to a mail
Mhm.
room, or you go to, right, like, it's amazing, right? There's so much movement happening. Like, and
Mhm.
I think it's something that is very hard to conceptualize when you're outside the system or you're just receiving your
Absolutely.
packages, right? Like,
Mhm.
whether it's at home, you're receiving Amazon packages, or you're in office and you just get your packages, right? The whole
Definitely.
system or the engine behind it, and the amount of work, grit, people, processes, and the software technology it takes for everything to align properly and to
Mhm.
not miss those important packages or deadlines or mail. It's amazing, right? So I
Yeah.
definitely see
Yeah.
what you're saying that,
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it.
yeah, yeah. Cool. I definitely feel that part as well. And also, right, like it's hands-on work. You know that you're having
Mhm.
an impact because it is really an engine, a well-run engine for any organization to run properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me personally, with it being the university and all,
Hmm.
there is a mission. We're here
Right.
to serve the students that study on campus, that are getting an education. And not just that, it's also the research that goes on campus. And we also have a big health side of our campus as well. So there's a really big mission and vision that I really align with.
That's beautiful. So that makes your work purposeful and meaningful. And
Mm-hmm.
there is something definitely beautiful about the educational industry, and just the being part of the higher education or just education in general, because everybody kind of aligns with the growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's learning and growing, and it's a constant part of your journey versus I have arrived versus, it's a path and
Mm-hmm.
learn. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I am curious to know, what did you learn about yourself through those career transitions?
Oh, yeah. So, first of all, I think just being really determined in the workplace is really helpful. Um, uh, Throughout the years, I've always advocated for myself and what I wanted to learn and also build my skill set for and what I wanted to do next. And in addition to that, it was really helpful because I had a very big support system for me too. So my boss, my first boss, when I entered into the workforce, was a really uh, big mentor in my life, and still is to today. Her name was Gisela, and she was a very impactful woman leader in logistics that I really admired. And she really helped kind of bring me out of my shell because it was the first job that I had out of college. Um, and thankfully, with her help, there was a lot of opportunities for me to really pick and choose what I wanted to do. So I mentioned, I had kind of a little bit of experience in a lot of different things. And that
Mhm.
was because leadership really helped me craft my journey, if you will. So I think those two things together, there's a little bit of things that I need to do on my own and pursue and advocate for. And then also just a little bit of help, a little bit of luck is really important along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's also the leaders we meet through our life that shape our journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Help us carry
absolutely.
the life forward, for sure. Um, if your 22-year-old self, you could see it now, right, through your lens,
Mhm.
what would surprise her the most?
Yeah, I think probably how much I've grown in such a short amount of time. I think that's just incredible when I look back on it. I mean, I do think a decade is very short, but the way that I've been able to just stay with it, stick with it, figure out what is important to me and what inspires me in the workplace, just to create that catapult, I guess, for
Yeah,
myself in the workplace. I think she'd be really proud and inspired. So it's just been so exciting, and I'm so grateful for this experience in this workplace.
absolutely, absolutely. I feel the same. I think it will be really inspiring. Um, yeah, sometimes it's hard to look back, and I feel when I was in my 20s, right, and everything was a struggle. I wanted to achieve everything, but there wasn't linear path, right? Life
Mhm.
is a linear path, but it works out beautifully some ways, and
Yes,
yeah,
I can totally understand that. I feel like in the moment, you feel like it's such a struggle, and you're kind of thinking, did I do the right thing? Or what's next? Or, why is this so hard?
yeah, yeah,
But I think just with a little bit of patience, I think in your 20s, it's really easy to be impatient about what you want to do next. But I think that's really kind of a skill to develop is the next thing will come. We just got to, take our time, and you're doing a good job, and things will come up. Don't worry about it.
absolutely, absolutely. There's so much wisdom and truth to that, right? As we grow
Mm-hmm.
older, these things help us shape ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think this is a good question, right? That for anyone listening who feels like they're stuck in their career path or don't have a clear plan, what
Mm-hmm.
advice do you share with them from your journey?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I think just really being authentic to yourself is my number one advice for everybody. Um, I think as I was going through my college experience, it was very easy to kind of default to the, oh, what do other people expect of me, or what should I do? But I think throughout the last 10 years of my journey, little by little, it didn't all happen at once. You know, you kind of develop that muscle of being authentic to yourself,
Mhm.
and really figuring out what makes you happy and what you enjoy in life. And then just being brave and just pursuing it and just doing it. I think sometimes it's a little scary to do that. But, as long as you have a great support system and, people to cheer you on, and you're really dedicated yourself, and you can pick yourself up by your bootstraps, those are things you can do for yourself. And just being authentic is really key to that.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And, I do want to pause and just think about authenticity here
Hmm.
because, the way you're describing the authenticity is like, showing up for yourself, understanding what you want versus what others expect of yourself, but
Hmm.
also creating the support structure you need to shine versus also life is not a linear path, right? You talked about like picking up yourself and just going back again, and
Hmm.
so the peaks and the valleys that you hit and you continue going through the journey. But yeah, there is so much to it, right? And this is so much work, right? That
Right.
it's
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. The peaks and valleys, kind of like a roller coaster.
right.
Um, and you just gotta keep going. Don't get off the roller coaster. You just gotta stay on.
Right. Yeah. And as you grow older, I think that's something that remains with everybody, right? That everybody
Mhm.
has to learn their way of picking up yourself,
Right.
because it's never going to be a linear journey, right?
Mhm.
Nothing is linear. It's always hills and valleys. And it's when you are in the valley and how you pick yourself up and what you learn from it and move forward very often defines who you are and who you'll become,
Right. Right.
right? So
Yeah, I
it's
100% agree with that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. I love that your journey shows how purpose, like what's your purpose, and how often you find purpose in the places you least expected, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes the best career just comes unplanned, but you make most of it by showing up and finding
Right.
it. Right? Very cool. Um, let's jump into project management. I think you
Yes.
mentioned like project management, and you and I chatted a bit about it's an interesting role where you don't really manage people directly, but you're in the middle of everything, and uh, your job is to align everything, and how as women I think it becomes part of our instincts to project
Mhm.
manage. So I'm curious to hear more about your experience on that.
Yeah. So project management is a very tricky role to play. Like you said, it's kind of about influencing without the actual authority of your team.
Yeah.
And with your project team, there's a whole bunch of different stakeholders and different backgrounds and different motivations. And it's really difficult sometimes to pinpoint some of that. Thankfully for me, a lot of the people that I've worked with for a long time. So I kind of know how they operate and what motivates people. So that part makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, it's definitely very difficult when you don't have that authority.
Yeah.
Um, but it is definitely a great experience. And if anybody is interested in project management and leadership as well, I think it's a really good stepping stone for a lot of people.
I agree. I 100% agree. I also did project management for quite a while in my career.
Hmm.
And what you were saying, right, that it is the chance to influence and align everything,
Right.
and also like, be a person who looks at things objectively versus being in the middle of it, and
Yeah.
also not an influencer but or a decision maker, but kind of like the source of truth, to align everything is it's a very great skill, right?
Yeah.
It helps you zoom out and start looking at things from 360-degree view, right? At least it builds a framework for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I did struggle a little bit with project management when I first started in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was very daunting because it's such a large project that you're assigned.
Right.
And at that time, at that moment, I didn't really have too much project management training. So I always thought about it as this big, massive challenge.
Yeah.
And when you think of it that way, obviously it's going to be scary, it's going to be daunting. But I learned throughout the way that the best way to do or to tackle that is just to break down the project into small, tiny pieces. And that really is kind of the crux of project management. But it wasn't until later, till I took classes and courses that kind of helped me solidify the framework of project management. And that's something that I tell a lot of people is, a lot of times you are doing project management at work, you are doing project management in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's a lot easier to have that framework or that common knowledge or common language that you can share with other people. And it just makes project management so much easier. And again, like you said, it's really just developing and honing in on that skill, leadership in a different manner
Right.
than just a normal, a supervisor or a boss or something like that.
Very true. And I think that's, very wise. I think the framework you're talking about and the common language is definitely
Mhm.
the key, right? That, learning common practices, common framework, language, definition is wonderful. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a great point. So tell me, what does good allyship looks like from the men at workspace, right?
Yeah, good allyship is so important. Um, I, I think the number one thing is for men to be able to give the spotlight to women in this situation. So let's say you're at a meeting in a group of people. I think a lot of times, naturally, we kind of gravitate towards who's the oldest male leader in this room. And oftentimes, conversation kind of leans over to the side. And it's not kind of balanced between a lot of the people in the room. Um, but, if you have somebody that's your ally in the room, that typically is kind of someone who might dominate a conversation and decides to say, hey, let's hear what Kristen has to say, or let's hear what so and so has to say, and really just being a someone who's managing the dialogue as opposed to dominating the dialogue is so important. And then the other thing I would say is for a good ally is to be proactive about a situation as opposed to reactive. I think there's so many situations I've been in where things happen and then afterwards we talk about it and say, oh, we could have done this better, or next time let's do this or whatnot. But I think for allies to really help those that need to be lifted is to be proactive, learn about ways that you can help others in a situation as opposed to dominating a situation, and really being cognizant about how you are in a group situation or how you present yourself in a group situation. So yeah, I think those two things are kind of my top two.
And they're wonderful. I think you're spot on, right? That I think so many of these I'm just listening and reflecting on, but they make a lot of sense to me, and different parts of life in different ways, I can really align them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, Kristen, what advice would you give to women in a male-dominating societies, right? Like our industries, like ours, logistic is definitely a very heavy male-dominated industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm curious to hear your experience in it and what advice would you give to other
Mm-hmm.
women entering such industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing to keep telling yourself is take up space. I think we've talked about this
Yeah.
before. Um, and just really having that mantra, keep telling yourself you need to take up this space because you deserve this space, you know.
Mhm.
And, what that means is really being an advocate for self. I kind of talked about that, in my career journey, being an advocate. And then also, in addition to that, um, creating a network that of support, and that's kind of a common theme I think in all of the questions that I'm talking about is one, do your part, being an advocate for yourself, and also really finding those that can support you, because it's really difficult to do anything by yourself.
Absolutely.
um, yeah, and let alone kind of navigating all the challenges of being the only woman in a logistics field, or for me, a person of color in the room. It's very daunting, um, and just a little bit of help goes a long way. Um, so yes, that is the advice I would give, is to really take up space in a room. Um,
Yeah, and that's profound. And I want to dig in a little bit deeper into taking a space, right? Because I feel like, in everything that we will discuss from now onwards through your journey, but it is one of the most profound thing, right? Is everything starts by taking space, right? A little by little, and you grow in your career from, like we were talking about, a decade can be too small, but it's also a very profound journey for you, right? So, what does taking the space mean for you?
Yeah, I think really just being confident in what you have to offer and what your value is to bring to the table. I think a lot of times it's just believing in yourself. Sometimes that's hard, but that's important to really just take that step and you know uh, speak up in a group of people, offer your opinion. Um, and at least for me, you know, I know that I have a ton of experience under my belt. I know that I'm financial savvy. These are things that I know about myself, that I can bring to the table. And if you know if someone gets nervous, if I get nervous in a situation, I have to sometimes remind myself, hey, like, you got this. you know um, Take up the space, provide your feedback about something. If it doesn't hit, that's okay. At least you said something. Um, but yeah, the only way to really take up space is to really just jump in there and provide your opinions and speak up.
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge that it's hard, right?
Mhm.
Like, we are hardwired in a lot of ways, right? Like, I think till date there is a voice, or as a society, we are conditioned to not take spaces, right? Like, whether it's
Mhm.
our bodies or just around, like, be gentle, be soft, be small, don't
Right.
take up space, and just that rewiring all that is a lot of work on yourself, right? And everybody benefits around you and you yourself,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it's definitely a I want to say it's work, but it's also like a lot of growth, which is like constant.
Mhm.
Like, it's not a one stop, right? Like, I have arrived, I
Yeah.
have taken a space, but you constantly keep growing
Mhm.
and like allowing yourself to take more space, but also give more space to people because you're confident in yourself, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and when we're talking about allyship, right, it's also that beautiful, like, at some point of time, your team becomes your team, and you don't care if it is a male or a female,
Right.
because of that space, right? If we start creating a space where you are given a lot of space to be yourself, then you have it in you to give space to others and
Mhm.
just create that space, right? Because we
Mhm.
give to the world what we need the most,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think it's so important figure out how to break down those barriers or things that kind of divide us as a people or a group or whatnot. And yeah, just making sure that people have an even playing ground, that the culture within a workplace is safe and sound. You have that psychological safety, where people can talk to their leaders about things no matter who you are.
Right.
I think those things are really important to me as a leader.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's something that really motivates me as well, and making it all human.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's above all we show up to work. And mm, we were just this morning having this discussion with the team on retrospect, that we were saying that we need to have hard conversations, and we need to, and all of us are better off having that hard conversation and coming to the other end, because
Mm-hmm.
we're stronger together.
Right.
Because it is work relationships are different than life relationships, but they're still relationships, and they're still,
Mm-hmm.
you're still dealing with humans, you're still dealing with emotions, and you don't get to choose a different person to be at work versus home, right? You bring your whole self to work.
Right.
And it's a big part of being human, is to really respect each other and honor each other, right, as humans. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your perspective. And definitely also, I still keep going back to that you are in an environment of education,
Mm-hmm.
university, where the growth mindset really prevails, and it creates an environment for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be in a place that has that type of culture, just right off the bat, because I know a lot of places you aren't as lucky to have something as strong as the culture here or the mission that we have at the university. So, very appreciative of that.
Wonderful. And I think it's a great, sounds like your purpose is to keep going forward with that and take it
Mhm.
forward and lead with that. So I think that's a uh, good way to segment into mentorship, student, and Gen Z, right? And
Mhm.
I know you talk about them with such great passion, that you're here to support the students' growth, empower them with whatever they need. So tell me some stories about you working with uh, Gen Z. What has your experience been like in mentorship and just helping the students?
Mhm. Yeah, sure. This is definitely one area that I'm extremely passionate about. And the reason being is because I remember when I was a student, I really wished that I had that mentor, that could help kind of guide me to figure out what it is that I wanted to do with my career. I think if I had a little bit more support in the mentorship area, I might have even changed my major in college, and had done something else. Um, but it's too late to go back now, right? But, anyways, the point being is that because I didn't necessarily have that experience for myself, this is something that I want to give back to the students, and really anybody, student or not, in the workplace or even in personal life and whatnot. Um, but all of our students that we hire for the logistics organization, they're all so bright. Um, all of them got into UC San Diego, which is a really difficult school to get into.
Mhm.
And so, that says a lot to start with. And really, all that they need is a little bit of support and guidance to kind of nurture that a little bit. Um, Being in logistics, it's not necessarily very many students, majors or minors and whatnot.
Mhm.
So we get a lot of students across the board. It might be in the sciences or um, history or political science or something like that, right? Um, but all the students have something to offer to our organization. And just working with them is really refreshing, and it's really exciting to see. These are the future leaders
Mhm.
of the world,
Yeah.
and just to have some part of that, is really important to me, just to give back.
That's beautiful and wonderful. Again, I think it ties back to your purpose. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but, I'm definitely moved by the thought behind mentorship, right? And how much it affects people's life with the little support you can provide them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just sharing a little of my experience, I think I've shared it with you before as well, that I really appreciate this Gen Z. They come with a different mindset altogether, right? They're not going to just take your word to do anything. They start with why. Like, why do you need it? What's the purpose? Like, how is it going to help, and what is your thought process? And they challenge you in so many different ways. I really appreciate, love working that mentality, right? That they just don't take anything without the why.
Yeah,
And yeah.
absolutely. I think that's also kind of where I've been inspired by my students
Hmm.
is just really leading with that curiosity is the why.
Yeah,
Why does something work this way? Or why did we decide to do this? And I think that's really important for um, having a constant development of a strategy for the workplace and making sure that we have a competitive advantage in the future. So yeah, just so inspirational with the students. Is sometimes you need that little bit of a reminder to just be curious about things instead of stuck in your ways.
definitely. And I think you said the right word, curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're still so curious,
Mm-hmm.
and that they start with curiosity, right? And then I've always found that they kind of like challenge, inspired to continue doing that and be in your element, right? That
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey of constant growth and learning. And
Right.
you definitely need to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Kristen, I think I also want to talk about sustainability and smart logistics, right? And so, taking a little bit of turn here to talk about, I would love to hear more about the initiative you've taken at UC San Diego about sustainability and smart logistics.
Yeah, sure. So this is a project that started a while ago. I would say maybe 8 or so years ago. So our goal was to really prepare for the future of the university.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And the way that UC San Diego is growing is just exponential. Um, we are quickly approaching maybe 22,000 to 25,000 students living on campus in the near future. And that's not even including all of the faculty and staff and whatnot. Um, so, really preparing for the future volumes that these residents are going to bring
Mhm.
um, and whatnot is really important. Excuse me. Ooh.
No worries, take your time. Yes.
um, so, the goal was to really get all of the large trucks off campus. One with a um, with a uh, with the goal of reducing the carbon footprint on campus. So that was part of it, and then also preparing for a more walking campus. Um, and so a lot of the roads on campus would only be accessible through a couple access points and a loop around campus. So one, it's really difficult for suppliers to get onto campus in the first place to deliver. And in addition to that, when the students are in class, you got them walking around with their earbuds in, and whatnot. So um, it would make a lot more sense for suppliers to deliver to an offsite location where we can consolidate all of the package volume and redirect it to campus with our internal driving crew that
Mhm.
knows a lot more about the campus buildings and access points and whatnot. Um, and so what I did was I created an analysis where I compared the cost of doing a drop shipment to our central receiving warehouse versus the suppliers doing all of the deliveries direct to campus. And you can clearly see that there's an advantage to doing a single drop at one location. Um, so, based off of that analysis, this is something that I brought to the table with the suppliers, as well as a team from our group, our supply chain group for the university, and proposed that, you know, we do a drop shipment at our central receiving warehouse, and in that it would be a game sharing opportunity between the supplier and us. In order for us to complete the deliveries to campus, we would get an incentive for the packages that are dropped off at our location. And the difference there is that this incentive amount would be a lot cheaper than having to support a full-blown
Mhm.
logistics operation that delivers direct to campus. And so at the time, we had three suppliers that we already had on board, but we hadn't looked at the contract in forever. So this was kind of a way to re-engage and talk about, how we can move forward in the current context at the time, with, financials where they were at.
Mhm.
And so uh, through that analysis, through that pitch, I was able to increase that incentive back to us for those three suppliers. And then eventually, because that was successful, we took it to other suppliers that delivered pretty frequently to our campus. Um, and so we really targeted maybe our top 10 suppliers at the time
Mhm.
and kind of went down the list and had conversations with them. And I think for it was probably about 3 or 4 of them, we were successful in gaining an incentive back to our organization. Ultimately, it's really important because our organization is self-supporting, so we need funds in order to run our operation. Um, and we're unable to do that fully with core funding, so that's federal and state funds. So we have to make up the difference somehow, and this is how some of the funding comes back to us to be able to support our our drivers, the technology that we use, our trucks, and all of that.
Oh, wow. That is really inspiring, Kristen. Oh, wow. I think I'm still comprehending the full breadth of your leadership and also the different roles you played in your life, and how I think it kind of like brings all of them together in one this project live, uh,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is beautiful and amazing, and a win-win situation for everybody, right? Kind of like I'm thinking, um, the core of you as student experience, which is really important to you. It's definitely enhancing their experience, their safety at campus, everybody's safety at campus. You don't have random people, right, like who are not vetted to be on campus. It kind of like helps everybody, right,
Mm-hmm.
to control like who gets in. A central receiving and distribution is also great for the volumes that you are dealing with, right? Like that's one thing that we always advise people
Mm-hmm.
with that kind of volume, that you want to have a central receiving hub, right?
Right.
Because it will optimize your process quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And and then also just the like in every organization and really even enterprises, the mail rooms or the inventory or our important cogs engine are the ones that are hit most with budget cuts, because they are the invisible force that runs it and nobody wants to acknowledge it, right? So kind of like
Mm-hmm.
so just having that self-sustainable method to keep
Mm-hmm.
running, operating is amazing. It's really inspiring. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think this should help a lot of people also think about ways, how to make it helpful. But
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've like, is this something that you write about or talk about with other educational institutions or enterprises to in the way they can manage their finances?
Yeah, yes, this is definitely a big topic that is shared amongst universities across the nation. So I'm also a part of an organization called University Logistics Supply Chain Association, or ULSCA for short. And this is a group of university and colleges across the nation that have a logistics operation. And UC San Diego is pretty far along in this central receiving type
Right.
journey. So we are able to kind of act as consultants almost to these other universities. Some of them are actually also building up their infrastructures for logistics, so just starting fresh. And so to be able to share our experiences and help others develop their logistics programs has been very exciting, I would say. And yeah, I think starting from scratch anywhere is very difficult. So just to have someone to kind of get advice from or understand what their journey was in order to create such a robust logistics organization is really helpful, especially if you're kind of in the same higher ed industry. So you're kind of speaking apples to apples there.
Yeah, and I'm smiling a lot because I'm tying it back to your core theme of mentorship, like
Mm-hmm.
how you like find a lot of joy and fulfillment in mentorship, and this is just an extension of that, right? Like that
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is what you need, and that is what you give out to the world is
Mm-hmm.
mentorship or support in any way if you're starting off, because your core belief is that if you provide a little support, people go a long way
Yeah.
because they have it in them, right? It's just, yeah, that's beautiful. Um, so I think it brings me back again. I'm just like seeing a lot of your, I'm appreciating a lot of your leadership style and deep rooted also sense of service,
Mm-hmm.
service, belongingness, creating a community, also coming from a service mindset that,
Right.
we are here to serve students, we are here to serve each other. We're also here to give to the community so that
Mhm.
they can learn from our learnings. So I'm curious, like, have you ever thought about in your own words, like, how would you describe your leadership? Like, who are you as a leader and what keeps you grounded in leadership?
Yeah. So for me, I think leading with purpose is very important. So what I mean by that is leading with a strategy. I always come in with a plan, thinking one step ahead of the game, um, and really creating a journey that makes sense to the person that is on my team or the person that I'm leading, because it's not a one size fits all. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think leading with the same approach for everybody kind of falls short a little bit because it's not a uh, what do you say, a cookie cutter approach. You can't use the same approach for everybody because everyone's different. Um, so uh, going back to my philosophy, it's just really strategically figuring out what will help someone be successful in their own way. And sometimes um, I think a lot of the people that I mentor, they kind of have the the bits and pieces that you need to be very successful, but they don't quite see it, or they don't quite believe it. And for me, what I love to do is just identify what those little things are and really help that person flourish because it's already there. And I think me being confident about it and providing that confidence back to that person really helps develop their confidence as well. And so, kind of, that's really my approach to leading other people.
That's beautiful and that's really profound. I think that, throughout the theme of still being that look for the good and provide a little support, people will go a long way because, they have it in them. They
Mhm.
just need a little support from someone. And
Right.
yeah, that's beautiful. And, I think there's a lot that I'm absorbing from that, but it's also, I'm smiling that, this is what makes life and people and everything around you beautiful because,
Mhm.
it's also fulfilling in a lot of ways, I suppose, for you.
Right.
So, Kristen, I think I really enjoyed the conversation with you, and I feel like I can keep going, but we are at a time, and I want to and have to wrap up. Can we take maybe do a quick, fun wrap up? Uh,
Sure. Yes.
some few. Let's do few quick, fun questions. Like,
Okay.
so, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am definitely a morning person. Yes. I need to go to sleep really early in order to function.
Say, um, favorite productivity hack?
um, let's see. Well, I use Teams Planner.
Hmm.
I am a really big advocate of that because it connects with everything and I get reminders. So just
Cool,
it's just another way of just writing things down, but in a application.
wonderful. If logistics had a theme song, what would yours be?
Oh my gosh.
You can choose to.
Let's see. Um, I think I need to skip this one for now. I'm
Sure.
not sure.
Uh, Dream alternate career.
Oh, yes. I have always thought about being a general contractor or learning how to build homes.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I think that would be my dream one day to build my own house or build something that I can live in. So, yeah.
Oh, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what about you just lit up and you were I feel the
Oh,
sense.
yeah,
Of, yeah.
I've always been curious about finding a job that is creative
Hmm.
and also strategic at the same time,
Yeah.
and maybe business oriented. And I feel like that's kind of like a perfect blending of those. I mean, I feel like I have that currently in my role right now,
Right.
but I think to bring it to a next level, that's kind of like owning my own business or managing something of my own or building something of my own. So that's uh, that's something that I've dreamt about.
That's beautiful and wonderful. It's again, it's your life has not been a linear path of things, but thinking about building a house. And you mentioned that building a house and living in your own house, right? Like,
Mhm.
so yeah, I can see everything putting together, but it's also
Yeah, isn't it? It's quite a theme, my life, I guess.
it's beautiful. It's yeah, it's a beautiful journey. Um, Kristen, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm really inspired by your journey and also feeling sense of happiness and joy in the way you lead, in the way you lead and show up every day as a leader because I think the world doesn't have enough of those, and we can all use that to create a better world. So, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow Leadership with Purpose on LinkedIn for more inspiring stories. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Swati. Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure. Thank you.